This is a fun, vulnerable, and hopefully inspiring episode.
Kirsten is coming at you with a keynote it's not the keynote, but it's a synthesis or a chat about the keynote that she's been giving to schools, to businesses, to friends, to probably her mother.
Anybody will listen.
About cringe and how important it is to, I don't know, love your cringe, embrace your cringe.
Embrace your cringe because it's really the compass that's pointing you towards greatness.
Yeah, and we get into that and some pretty practical like life hacks from both of us that help us get through this particular problem in life.
Yep. Embrace it. Hope you enjoy.
Enjoy. Hey everyone, it's Chris.
And Kirsten.
Welcome to Good Thinking Weekly, the podcast where we discuss the best of the best in brands, marketing, and culture.
Thousands of people, top execs from the likes of Complex, Klaviyo, Walmart, Wall Street Journal, and LVMH tune in every single week.
We run a creative consultancy in Good Co, so we know what it takes to build a good brand.
Subscribe on YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and Good Thinking on Substack for more.
All right, let's dive in.
Welcome to a cringe episode.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't slept, so it's going to be the best episode ever. But actually, this is something that Kirsten has been talking about, giving talks on, talking to everybody about. It's something that she's super passionate about. And that honestly, we've personally have like literally lived this talk that you're not going to give the talk, but we're going to talk about what you talk about. And I think it's a very close to home topic.
For sure. And I think it's really started with, I think, you and I articulating it. And I was like, yes, that's it. That's the thing. And then kind of me looking back and being like, oh, wow, I now have words to be able to put to what I feel and what I've gone through and what I think the real like magic behind it is.
The magic behind cringe
is
the title of the episode. So well done. We're 5 minutes in and we've already accomplished something. So
we're nailing it.
All right. So tell us, like, what is it that you want to talk about? Like, where do you want to start?
I mean, I think I want to start with the questions that I ask in the keynote, because I think it's something that's universal, right? I think it's not necessarily just my story or your story, and we can get into that. But I think it's thinking about, if you've ever posted something on social, right? And then you've immediately like felt sweat and felt like you wanted to take it back, right? Whether it
every time, it literally never goes away, honestly.
Right. So the idea of wanting to say something in a room, whether it's a client presentation, whether it's like you're in corporate and you want to speak up, and you end up saying nothing.
It never goes away. Right. I mean, I say a lot, so that has gone away.
And just the idea of like moving into a space that is more like publicly, like we're great examples of this, moving into a space that is more like publicly viewed, and there's cringe behind it. And I think it's really important to differentiate. It's not a lack of confidence. It's that it's cringe. It's
both.
That it's like, you're putting yourself out there, you're getting vulnerable, you are taking the mask off to whatever degree, and you're letting people see that. And for me, it goes back really realizing like, okay, well, it's like, I can go really far back. It's like getting fired, going through my divorce, like us all living through a pandemic. It's all of these just uncomfortable situations, big, small, could be a LinkedIn post, could be a divorce. And it's really realizing that the more that I've leaned into those spaces and am brave and I'm authentically myself, there's fucking magic on the other end of that.
Yes. Doesn't mean that it doesn't also feel hard even on the magic end of wherever you are, though, is like my reality. Like I'm still on Cringe Mountain, like every day. It just becomes less and less of a thing that I think about. Like I'm still here. I'm still on the side of Cringe Mountain, but I don't know. It's like you get into the air and you're like, oh, I'm used to breathing this now. Like, here we are.
And I think, and I strongly, deeply believe that hopefully never goes away because we're continuing to climb that. And I now look for spaces. And like a love language for me is when people like say the thing, they say the uncomfortable thing in the room. And it's like being able to sit in that discomfort and push your way through, I think really just makes us all better people. Like I think it makes us more authentic. I think it makes us more connected. I just think it does it unlocks everything.
Okay. And so what are we unlocking?
We're unlocking shame. We're unlocking
Great.
confidence. We're I think unlocking vulnerability,
Okay. All your favorite words.
right?
So
I mean, what do you
carry
think
on.
we're unlocking? I mean, I think it's a great example. You have a great example of this, right? You have a great example, and the reason that we're here talking about the letter. Like, I think it's a perfect example of shit doing something that is uncomfortable and moving into that space and still being uncomfortable about it. Like, it's not like, shit, once I unlocked this, then everything just became flow and wasn't uncomfortable. It's okay, well, what's the next level of that? What's the next level of that? What's the next level of that? But once you do that, I think there is an unlock in sharing yourself with another person, with the world, whatever it may be, that then there's momentum and excitement and connection through that, that then you just want more and more of.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's true. Like you want the other side of there are benefits of doing this and you enjoy the benefits more and more and more. I think you honestly like every time you do the new thing, the hard thing, the cringe part, like the hard part for me, like it's still always difficult. Like it always feels a little bit like, okay, South by. All right, now I have to like do this thing. Like it's like you have to it's like, oh, I'm gonna fail at this. It's gonna be terrible. Like, but then, you also have to tell yourself you're not gonna fail at it because otherwise that's like bad juju. But you also have to believe that, right? But it takes time to believe it. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's I meet a lot of really nice people. And so most of the time, like that's just like now like that's the side of it that I'm like, oh, I never would have had that.
right.
Is that all the other things about it? Like, I could have always had the writing. I could have always had the voice. I could have always, like, I actually always had those things, but I actually
Hmm.
didn't have the other receiving side of it. And that I never had. So that's cool.
Right. And I think my point is, I think it's a complete unlock. And I think it's not something, I think it's something that societally, and, that's a whole thing, that we are accustomed to moving away from discomfort, right? Like, nobody wants to be uncomfortable. Like, that's fucking terrible. And the pandemic's a perfect example of that. Like, it was terrible for so many reasons. But I think the more and more I've experienced it in my life, personally and professionally, now it is something that I look for because I really realize that putting yourself out there, like pushing yourself in the way that is uncomfortable, in a more like uncomfortable, vulnerable space, it unlocks something. It unlocks something professionally, it unlocks something personally. Like there's magic behind that. And so I think instead of thinking about it as like, okay, well, just once we do this thing, once we start the LinkedIn post, or once you start the letter, or once we do this podcast once, it'll be easy. And that's bullshit. It's absolutely not the case. It's like, okay, well, this gets easier to do, but then like, what's the next thing on the mountain? What's the next thing? And so leaning into that discomfort versus always trying to step away from it, I think across the world or across the experience is magic.
Okay. Great. So what's the next step?
What's next after that? I mean, I think there's a reason, there's so much science behind why we feel that. Like, I think it's fascinating to know the fight or flight is like, the saber-tooth tiger that we were, supposed to be scared of. And that's like why our amygdala like thinks that way.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of, I think for me, it's a constant reframe from discomfort means move away from it to discomfort means, okay, take a pause and figure out what it's telling you,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and then lean into the parts that are uncomfortable, but still something that you want to overcome.
Right. That makes sense.
Like Brene Brown's arena speech to me is like, is everything, right? Is like really wanting to be in the arena. And that's something that I for sure want to do every day. And some days I'm a better version of that, but really leaning into that and wanting to be somebody that's in the arena versus somebody that's just on the sidelines, making comments.
Yeah. Yes. And I think it's hard, like, I'm thinking about our South by thing. We worked with this, like, amazing speech what did we call her? Speech coach?
Guru, consultant, rad
She's just so
human.
much more than a coach,
Yeah.
and she gave, like, so many tangible ways that, like, I think a lot of people think about overcoming cringe as, like, this really big, like, to-do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we were talking about, like, getting up on stage and I was talking about, I was like, "I'm gonna hear my voice quiver, it's gonna do this," and this I was like, just it was going. Like, the same way the first night the letter went out, I was like, "Oh my God, like, everybody thinks I'm an idiot." And you do that to yourself. And she's like, "Yeah, but that's normal." But then there are also just some breathing techniques, there's some searching techniques, there's some, like, looking at things techniques, there's some standing techniques, and all of these things are actually just overcoming what you're talking about, which is just the, "Holy shit, this is scary, and my body is scared, and I just need to move past that feeling," right? Like, but I think a lot of people think that the cringe mountain is a lot of like, "Oh, I gotta figure out what to say," and there is that, but there's also just some very more basic shit that you have to overcome, and that isn't actually as hard as you think it might be.
Right. Right. I think that's exactly it. And I think that's maybe why it resonates with me so much because there is a woo-woo part of it, right? It is like, it's like embracing the cringe, like choosing vulnerability or kind of to expose yourself or take the mask off or whatever that might be. That ultimately creates connection, it creates intimacy. And then for me, on the other side of that, I find myself like speaking my truth, living my truth, doing the thing that I felt was scary to do, but I did it
Mhm.
anyways. And there is I'm proud of myself when I've done those things, big or small.
But I will say that I think you and I, as people, like, we both have always done that, like, for better or for worse, like, maybe. Or been told anyway, for better or for worse. Like, I've for sure gotten some terrible feedback of, like, "You're too loud, you're too much, you're too this, you're too opinionated, like, you always have an answer." Like, it's like, okay, like, and I think you're similar. And not
Hmm.
everyone is like that, but I think one of the things that, like, you're very extroverted, I'm very introverted,
Hmm.
or pretend to be extroverted sometimes, but mostly introverted.
I mean, we're bringing it
And
out. It's coming out.
right, but I think that that's the point, is that I think sometimes when people hear us, they think that this is naturally who we are, but it's a little bit
Which it
that,
is.
but it's, well, but I think you're a more extreme version of extroverted, right? And like, but when you write, that you feel more scared than when I write.
Totally. Totally.
And when you show up in a room, you're much less scared than I. Like, I have all the eyeballs on me. This feels terrible to my body. Like, I'm like, just terrible. And I think you have to realize that everybody, within every single human being, there's like one thing that you'll be better at and one thing that you'll be worse at. And sometimes I think when you're climbing that cringe mountain, you have to kind of pick your battles the first time. Like, I didn't want to do the podcast, right? Because this feels very unnatural to me, like, as like most people might realize when they first saw me, but then over time, like, it becomes like, it's like, this is normal to me. It was always normal to me to talk to you, but not to put it
Right.
on the internet, right? But when you started writing LinkedIn posts, like, it was really hard for you.
Yeah,
Like,
totally. Yeah.
really hard. And I think that people don't see that side of Cringe Mountain from people. Everybody looks at somebody who's on Cringe Mountain and thinks that they were already like halfway up, and everybody starts at the bottom
Hmm.
in their own capacity. And the further you get up, the easier what you're saying becomes.
Right. But then I think you have a new mountain to climb
Yes,
because
yeah. But I
you
think,
know,
like, you're speaking from a halfway up the mountain now, and it's like really inspiring, and like everybody's looking at you and they're like, ah. But like, it wasn't always like that. Like, you were really mortified the first like LinkedIn post that you wrote.
totally. Yeah. It's to be like, yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, what I want to unlock is like everybody's got a different version of cringe. And it's just about leaning into that to whatever degree they're comfortable with. And I think everybody sees in those baby steps, there's something beautiful that comes out. There's a self-confidence. There's a taking the mask off to whatever level. There is connection. And like
Yeah.
writing LinkedIn posts, for example, I developed more and more honed in and continue to my voice, what I want to say, what's important to me. Like I have to start off every day. I think about what my LinkedIn post is. And sometimes they're like, more professional and more, oh, this is happening in marketing a brand and I want to share about it. And sometimes it's just part of a personal journey that I'm having. And it feels really good to be able to like speak my truth and whatever that is. I'm proud of whatever version that is. And then, you create connection and people commenting on it or feeling like, oh yeah, me too.
Right. Agreed. Also want a caveat, because I just feel like it's important for me to be the foil to this experience, because you are like in it
Yes, bring
and
it.
you're making it sound
Agreed.
super easy. Is that
It's not
like
easy.
Kirsten does a lot of therapy.
I
a
do.
lot.
I do. I was
Pride
talking to
in
my therapist
oneself is
today.
right. Pride in oneself is not something that's like innate to many people. Like it's hard. It's easier to be proud. And so like one of the things that I often say is that like for us to have gotten in this mountain together was much easier than if we just like
Yeah.
rose onto it on our own, right? Like I started writing the letter, but you were like, yeah, you got this. And I was like, it's terrible. And then we started the podcast and then we started writing on LinkedIn and like it was like baby steps, but we were both kind of like nudging each other when we were like kind of giving up and like and
Yeah.
then you find yourself nudging other people. And then the really nice thing is that, like, I've nudged so many people onto this mountain that now I feel like a Sherpa. Like, I'm like, okay, guys,
You
like, I
absolutely
can't
are.
give up
You are.
now. I can't give up now. Like, because we all on this mountain together. Like, keep going. And you have too. And I think it's just like, that's one of the things that I feel like I've had a few people reach out to me and say, hey, I'm ready to get on the mountain, or like however they want to, like, they don't say it that
Mhm.
way, but like that's what it means.
Some do.
And like some do. And just say, how do I do this? Or like, can you help me on this journey? Or like, can you just be there? And I will always offer to people, like, I always put an alert when somebody like, so I put the little bell on for
You
LinkedIn.
so
I
smart.
really do try.
You do
When
try.
people tell me that they're getting on the mountain, like I make a point of like, I comment on every Substack post. And I think that when you hear that your friend is going on this journey, like I would say, like if you're not ready to go on it yourself or you are on it, I would say one thing that's also really like helpful is to have somebody on that journey with you, but you can also be that for somebody else, right?
Mhm.
And it feels really nice to be that person, to be the first comment, to always give the like, like, I don't comment on a lot of things on LinkedIn. I mainly comment on the people that I've dragged onto this mountain. Like, I've got responsibilities now. Like, this is a lot of
Right.
work. But then you do find yourself on there. But I will say, like, it's not easy, but then you get on. And I think if you also take it upon yourself to take some people with you, or you sign up with somebody else to do it, like whether it's a friend or a coworker, business partner, whoever it is, this process is easier when you have somebody else.
For sure. For sure. I
And
think
ask
and
a
I
stranger,
yeah.
like, or a colleague,
Yep.
or someone
Or
you're
Chris.
close with, or me. I mean, please don't all ask me at once, but I will be there if you all ask me.
Yeah, but I think
I'll
again,
put
like I
bells
think
on.
that it brings community, and I think it really does bring community. You know, we've met people that we've just connected with. And we keep using LinkedIn, and we'll move on in a minute, but I think that's a perfect example. We have met people on LinkedIn that is part of this community that they're sharing themselves with also authentically. And when we meet them, there's a real connection because they're sharing themselves and
Mhm.
you feel that. And then when you meet them, they're actually that person versus this facade or, there's a big difference between, just posting whatever it is that you think you should post and posting something that is of your essence, of your being. And I think there's a vulnerability to that. And that's what makes it cringe. It's not just like, oh, I'm just going to post this news article or this. That's great. But I think it's also about really like what is the vulnerable thing that you can say? What is the taking the mask off thing that you can say? Then this is where the discomfort comes in. Like what's the uncomfortable thing to say in the room? And I think, then it's thinking about it within clients. And I spoke yesterday at LMU, which was rad to see students in a room and like being able to be a part of that conversation was so, so great. But one of the things I shared, and this, is looking back on my career. It makes me sound fucking ancient, by the way. The things that I am most proud of, without a doubt, are the times when I have pushed forth, like put a flagpole in the sand, whatever it was, whether it was like a small, like,
Mhm.
I believe in this flip-flop idea. We should really do this. It's going to, be rad and change the world, and have, a CMO come up against me and be like, it's a terrible idea. You're too idealistic, whatever it may be. When I've really pushed past that and spoken my truth about something that I believe in, those are the things that I'm most proud of and have, I think, made the biggest impact.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds so obvious to me, but like, yes.
But I think,
No, only
going
obvious because we've sat in this
right,
conversation like
we've had
10
this
times.
conversation.
But
But I think
yes.
it's going back. I think, we having this conversation makes me think of a lot of people that we've talked to, a lot of women specifically, that are like, oh shit, to speak up is hard, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's in a meeting. And I think just moving into that little by little, taking baby steps to do that, there is an unlock that brings.
Yes. And I think, like, I will say, I don't want to keep bringing you back to LinkedIn and to like personal brand and all these things, but I will say that the practice. So I've always been fairly good at like being in a room with clients, right?
Yep.
But like being in a room of strangers physically is very different to being in a room with clients. I don't know why. But like if you have to figure out your zone, but like writing has enabled me to unlock the cringe of being in the room with the strangers, right? Like
Mm,
it's almost like you've swum through some weird depths and then you like again, like you just don't care anymore maybe, or like you're like, well, I've left that baggage behind and so I can take on some more. That's probably something to work on with my therapist. But I think that practicing cringe, like
yeah.
kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
So not everybody has, like, some people are in some very tough like work situations with terrible bosses, or you have a lot of self-confidence when it comes to these things and you're kind of just like, you've always been like a fuck it, like I've got to say the thing. Like I think you and I share that, and that like
Right.
when I think the thing, like it's almost impossible to not say the thing. Like that's
Right.
probably my worst like trait in life and maybe my best trait. But I think if you don't have the ability to practice in the room that you're in, there's other rooms to practice in. And when you
Right.
practice in the other rooms, it gets easier in the rooms that you're in.
Yes. I think that's exactly. I think that's a great and super helpful point. And I think even if we're comfortable in a room, I think then putting ourselves out there publicly, like there are still steps that have been cringe, even having confidence in a room and being able to talk to people. There's still a discomfort, right? Okay, well, then there's a larger room. There's a bigger stage that we're on. There's a posting, more personally on LinkedIn, whatever it might be. There are still ongoing, like daily times when it's cringe. And I think that's something that I just want to make sure that people really get, that it's not like, oh, once you do this thing, or some people have it or some people don't have it. Like it's a thing for everyone and everyone has it. In my life, what I have found is the more that I can lean into that, and some days are better than others, the more that I can lean into that, it unlocks so much magic for me to figure out,
Yes.
the writing has helped you to being in the room. But I think even thinking about client conversations, we've had some uncomfortable client conversations recently, and being able to push and say this thing and speak our minds, knowing that, the goal is for the betterment of the company, the brand, whatever it is that we're working on. I think that's really important. And that's a differentiator in how we work, how we show up, and ultimately, I think what the work looks like.
Yeah. I mean, I think it has ultimately always led to better things, but it is hard to do. Cringe is helpful on all levels. Embrace the cringe. Love the
I
cringe. Is that
mean,
what we started with? Is that what the.
I say embrace, but love, lean into.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're past our lean in era, so I'm going to throw that one out.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. I think then when I look on the other end of it, right, if you look on the other side of not saying the thing in the room, which I've certainly been a part of, working for kind of corporate brands and things like that,
And
and
it feels
wanting to have
terrible.
said something.
You're still up all night. Like, to be honest, like, one of
Exactly.
the things that I've realized is that no matter what, like, you're either up all night cringe that you said the thing, or up all night cringe you didn't say the thing.
So which side would you rather be on? And this is where, I think feeling empowered, whether you said the thing and people hated it, or you didn't say the thing and now you're hating yourself, like which end would you rather be on?
Well, the real unlock from my therapist is to not care about either, which is really where I'm at. But like, it's like you have to just be able to forget either way. But yes, it's always better to say.
And I think, what resonates with me and what we talk a lot about is then like brands that are able to do that. Like we talked to Jasmine about, it's unlocking the shame behind that. Because I think when you do that and when you say the uncomfortable thing, when you can really identify that, there's a shit ton of people that are like raising their hand and being like, yeah, me too.
Yes. And I think it's interesting because I think that when, and much like what you're talking about with your, like the more I'm not going to use the A word. The more you like do this truthfully, or the more that you do it like without filter, which is probably like what I think we all mean by the A word. When you take the mask off.
She means authentic.
Yes, but I refuse to say it. But like, it's like, I went on a podcast the other day and they were like, can you take the mask off? And I was like, I don't have a mask. I don't know where it is. I lost it a long time ago. It was so funny. I was like, oh, I should have found that before I came on. But but I think that one of the things about that is that the more you practice, like, kind of being truly vulnerable in front of people, the more, and with brands, like, a lot of brands aren't able to be vulnerable. Like, some great brands are, but many
Mhm.
brands aren't great at it because they're literally, like, told all day, like, not to do it. Like, not to do the thing, not to do the thing. And I think that many brands don't actually climb onto Cringe Mountain. And
Oh,
I think the
for
brands that
sure.
are doing it the best have, like, kind of come through that and said, okay, like, even if it's in a small way, like, I think about Hermes, right? And I was thinking about,
Mhm.
like, them the other day when we were talking about Salone. And for them to get on the wheel on this bus of like, "Oh, we're going to do all these cool illustrations and all of these things, like it requires like a creativity that's quite vulnerable, right? Like it requires climbing onto Cringe Mountain in so many, like
Yeah.
in some ways, like, did we work with the wrong illustrator? Did we make the wrong illustrations? Did we do this social thing wrong, right? Like, because we're not doing it the way that everybody else did it.
Mhm.
And I would just say that, like, the brands that do, like, kind of lean into, like, it's like, okay, you're gonna do it, and then you have to decide that it's true to who you are, right? Like, I write the letter because this is the letter I have to write. Like, this is
Right.
the one I wanna write. I'm not writing it for you guys. This is the letter I want. Like, this is the letter that I got on the mountain to write. And then when you do that, and I think, like, you see it. Like, I think you see the kinds of, when you write the posts that you write well, I think you see the resonance of it, right? Like, when you write about the
Mhm.
things that are really passionate for you that I can see when you've posted them, I'm like, that one was like a really Kirsten one. Like, here we are. Like, everybody's getting the mask off today. Like, oh, okay. Like, she really like took it off. Like, she like got naked on the internet today. Like, here we go. But it really resonates. But it's quite hard. And I think that brands that do that really well are really resonating with people. But it's harder to convince everybody to climb on the Cringe Mountain as a group.
For sure. For sure, but I think it's to me, I see parallels across the board, right? It's in brand, it's in personal brand, it's in professional life, it's in personal life, and I think it's the exact same. Like, brands aren't that comfortable doing it, but as a society, we're not that comfortable doing it. Again, it goes back to, like, I'm not a super scientific person, but it goes back to the saber-tooth tiger, and we're supposed to, the fear is supposed to come up to that. And I think we're just in a different age and a different time. And instead of just automatically saying, like, oh shit, that's uncomfortable, I'm going to go the other way, it's about taking a minute, like checking in with yourself and being like, is this discomfort something that I actually want to lean into? Because it's just uncomfortable in the moment. And it's just about being vulnerable, which is an uncomfortable feeling for everyone. But
Yeah.
when you do break through that in whatever, whether it's a brand, whether it's a LinkedIn post, whether it's, saying the thing with a client, whether it's saying the thing with your husband or wife, like whatever it may be, it unlocks something in speaking your truth, in connection, oftentimes. And I just
Right.
think that's never been more important, certainly in my life, but also in the age that we're in today, where AI and all of those parts and pieces are happening. And we're able to, everything's at our fingertips now, whether it's, being able to post on any type of social, like you can get your message out there. It's uncomfortable to do, but you're able to do it. And I think it's just never been more important.
All right. I have a question for you. What's next on your cringe, like if we have like Girl Scouts kind of badges, like
But we got badges.
what else are you going for? Like, what's your cringe that you're trying to get past, or that you're like, I want to do this thing, but I know it's going to require a lot of me?
That's a good question. I think showing up in the spaces really authentically and
She said the A word.
yeah, it just came out. It just came out. But I think it's
Coin in the
really
jar.
true. But really vulnerably, I think the more and more I lean into who I am and speaking my truth. So again, I'll bring up yesterday speaking in the room with students and being able to really leaning into being vulnerable in that moment, right? Like having the presentation that I wanted to say and kind of having the thing, but building off of that, being able to
Mhm.
put that to the side and just in that moment, now that we're in larger rooms, we're exposed more, having those connected conversations and being able to be a voice so that more people can have those connected conversations,
Mhm.
but having to do the work myself. So I think for me, the next thing is really about having the speech or the talk that we're going to give, but doing it in a way that doesn't just deliver the information, goes beyond that and really connects in the moment
Mm.
to whatever it is that I'm
That's a good
feeling,
one.
doing. Like, for example, and I talk about this, like I talk to a lot of people all week, right? It's a big part of what I do, Zoom calls, meetings, that kind of thing. But when you have that conversation that like you end up talking about something that maybe it's related to work, maybe it's not, but it's like that heart to heart conversation, you know
Mhm.
it and you can both feel it. And so being
Mhm.
able to really figure out, and everybody's different, every situation's different, every conversation's different, every day is different, but figure out what that unlock is for you and being the one to kind of start that. It means putting
Mhm.
yourself out there and whatever that is. Like that's something that feels like what I'm looking to do, like the next version.
I love that. It's gonna be
And
great.
you?
I've been thinking about this.
Mm, you tell.
I'm always thinking, you know me.
Yes, you are. Yes.
I have a couple
Oh,
that have come to mind. The first one is talking about your own success. Like to me, that's cringe. Ultimate cringe. Again, a lot of people ask me about my success, right? And it's so laughable to me. Like it's like, what success? But then they're like, oh yeah, like here's the things. And like I'm realizing like it's okay to talk about your success, right? But for me, that's really uncomfortable.
mm-hmm.
So that's one. And it's interesting because in Salone, like I met a few people who kind of like I would joke like were akin to me, like they're accidentally famous. Like it's like
Mm-hmm. It's a
I
great
was like, I
description.
became accidentally famous. Like I didn't set out to be this famous. And I met other people like me, like who were
Mm-hmm.
like I accidentally became famous. And it's like I'm not really famous and they're not really famous, but like we're kind of all famous in this like weird little way. And it's like it's funny and it made it very like it made it less cringe to me because when
Mm-hmm.
I met them and they were like, "Oh yeah, I too am accidentally famous." Like, and we got to laugh about it, and then got to talk about how like weird that is. But it made talking about success less weird for me because like we'd all kind of said the thing, and then we could talk about like the great things and the bad things and the amazing things and like all the success. So there's that. I'm emceeing an event next week when
Cannot
this comes
wait.
out.
Cannot wait for this. Like this, that's a great example. That's a great example. Okay, can you give a little background on that? Because this is perfect.
When this comes out, I will literally be on stage emceeing a conference
Yes.
called Brands and Culture in London, and they are going to have a conference in New York, and I'm not being paid to say this, so just shout out to Charlotte and Joe because I love
Yes.
them, and they invited me to do this,
Amazing
but
humans,
we'll
an amazing
probably be there in
conference.
New York, and it's really, really, like, amazing, and they're so lovely. And they invited me to MC, which to me is like, me? MC? Like, looking around, like, "You want me to do that?" Like, that doesn't sound like me. And yet, I've decided that this is the mountain I'm gonna climb this week. Like, it's like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this." I was I literally told my husband, I was like, "I'm gonna put on my big girl pants, and they're gonna be pants that don't belong to me." I was like,
Yet.
"Well, but then what they will feel strange, right?" But, like,
Yeah.
I'm always so familiar with putting on these kind of, like, pants now. Like, it's like, "Okay, like, this is not, like, necessarily my comfort zone, but I'm learning how to kinda tap into a side of me that is comfortable doing that." It's just different, you know? Like, it's a different version. But, like, the more I practice at it, the more this is less daunting to me. It's less paralyzing. I was never really paralyzed by these things, but it's like it's less, like, overwhelming, you know? Like, it turned from "whoa" to excitement, like, pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I would guess, hasn't happened yet, but in your doing this, which I'm so excited for and is going to be amazing, the way that you're going to do it is going to be informative. It's going to be connected. It's going to be vulnerable. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be inspiring. Like, who doesn't want that? And I think that's a perfect example. If that to me, I'm much more interested in seeing that version and seeing somebody like that MC something than like, okay, this slick, like I figured it all out and I know how to do all of the things where there's no kind of connection point. There's no vulnerability. I think we're all done with that other version of anyone, personally.
Yes. Well, I don't think we're actually all done with it because they keep getting higher, but we are all actually done with
Well,
it.
us.
Um,
Okay, what's the third one? Or did I make that up? We like things in
Oh,
threes.
you might have made it.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
that made me think of a few other things. I think it's, all of the whisper conversations to me, like talking more about perimenopause,
Yes.
that space, like sexuality, like all of those things that like
Right.
have been such
Parenting,
like a
yeah, we've talked about parenting a lot, but like I'm still realizing that that's like a whole like slew of people who are interested in that conversation, vulnerable parenting, shame
yeah,
parenting. Like you had a post that took off the other day and like some pretty very passionate comments
very
on it.
passionate.
And
I
then,
was shocked. I was shocked, honestly, because it was
but
just
like
like, oh, this thing happened.
really excited for you, but then some negative ones, which I think is another thing. Like, I just want to, like, before we come to a close, like, part of, like, I think once you're on the mountain and you're doing these things, like, I want to warn you that, like, 99% of people are, like, beautifully supportive of you. I have found. I think when you do it from a place that like is very vulnerable and is like not trying to like sell anyone on anything or like convince anyone of anything, like people get that. And then you will meet a 1% of people. And I'm sure as you get bigger, that obviously that 1% gets
It
bigger,
gets
right?
bigger. Yeah.
They won't like what you say and you'll still survive it. The thing that somebody taught me, Daisy, shout out to Daisy, who helped us get on LinkedIn Cringe
Yep.
Mountain together, was that you don't have to answer to every single person that doesn't like you.
Yeah.
And like, may that be a lesson to you while you're on this mountain, is because it's really a great lesson to learn. And you learn it no better than when you're doing this.
I mean, LinkedIn is such a metaphor for life, really.
Let's
Like
not
it's
say that.
such a good lesson across the board. Like because the bigger your stage, meaning the more people that you're exposing yourself to,
Yeah.
that you're sharing your truth
And
with.
this could be true on Instagram or TikTok
Right,
too, like
exactly.
just
That's
so
what I
you
mean.
know.
It could be true in a room of people. It could be true at, Summit. It can be true wherever you are in just a conversation with people. But the bigger that audience, the bigger that stage, the bigger the number of people, the more people are going to be uncomfortable. The more people are going to say, poo-poo it, whatever it is, speak negatively to it. And that's their stuff. And I think being non-reactive to that, which is not always easy, but it's just the awareness of that's going to come. And that just means like you're doing something that's important. Again, goes back
Right.
to the brand thing. When a brand is really connecting with some people, it's really not connecting with other people. And that's okay because nobody should be everything to everybody.
Right. But I think that is a hard thing to learn when you're kind of doing this thing because a lot of people really want to be liked.
Sure. Who
I was
doesn't?
raised a people pleaser. Like I'm very good at it.
I don't
I'm
know if you're
very
that
good at
good at it, to be honest. You're good at a lot of things.
I'm actually pretty good at doing it not in a professional life. Like I'm good at being like the mom who shows up and like brings the cookies and does the things and da, 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 da.
Yeah.
But in a professional life I've never been very good at just shutting my mouth. But yeah, I think that you're gonna meet haters. It's gonna be great. You're gonna be fine. Mm, it'll all be all right.
Yeah. You'll survive it. And then you'll go, okay, got through it, pat myself on the back. And then it's like, well, what's the next cringe mountain?
All right.
Keeps going.
So anything else? Is that it?
I mean, I think it's, a call to people of like, what's the thing that they need to share, right? What's the idea that you want to share? What's the leap, that you want to take of really figuring out what it is for you individually of what's that tiny little thing that you can do that's going to be uncomfortable in the best possible way of just sharing more of yourself with the world, because I think that's what we're all here to do. And everybody has something really, really inspiring, beautiful, and amazing to share. They've just got to tap into whatever that is. And I've found like LinkedIn's again a good example of the more that I do it, the more I really know, oh, this is the part that I want to share. This is leaning into it, and it's helping me. It's very therapeutic. It's helping me to articulate that both to myself and to others.
Yeah. Um, I will say a lot of people tell me, like, oh, but it's already been said. And it's not been said by you, like, in your
Mm,
way, in your thing. Like, I think that that can be a real sticking point, I think, for a lot of people is beginning to try to say the thing. Like, so maybe just try to say the thing and set that
yeah.
as the goal for the first thing.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Cringe is definitely the advantage, not the weakness.
Right.
Say the
But
thing.
just even like just trying it once, trying it, just beginning. As my therapist said when I started this letter, nobody cares what you say. You can say it for 6 weeks and no one will notice you're gone, which is really sad, but also really liberating. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, but it will be awful, or like, what will they think of me? Let me know, let me be the one to tell you no one's paying attention to you, and begin anyway, and just do the thing. Begin the cringe.
Yes, it's the spotlight effect, as Brene calls it. All right. So what I would love to hear is the spotlight effect is when you get out of a pool, you're like all so worried about what you look like, and meanwhile, everybody else is so worried about themselves that they're not even paying any attention to you.
Yeah, but I think it's the spotlight effect combined with the like, am I special? Whatever. There's probably some Brene Brown like wonderful thing. Like, it's like, am I special enough to be saying this thing, right? And it's like, I think the only way to get over that is to just say the thing. Like, just say something. Like, even if it's not the right thing, even if it's not the perfect thing, like so many of my friends and people that I know, like the biggest hurdle of this entire thing is just beginning to do the thing. Like, that seems to be the hardest thing that people are like. And now, like, once you're on it, like, it's like we're all day here, like, just being like, what else can we do? Like, what else can we say? Where else can we say it? Like, it's just, but it didn't start that way. And it can look to a lot of people like, oh, that was really easy for them to begin to say the thing, but it wasn't easy to begin to say the thing. And so just like maybe after this podcast, like, think about what it is, and it'll come out on a Wednesday, and commit to doing it on Thursday. That's all you got to do.
Yes. I love that. And I would love to hear what that is. So tell us in the comments, tag us on LinkedIn, like what is the thing that you need to do? And I think it's not waiting for the perfect time, because that's never going to happen. It's just starting and baby
just
steps
tag
to
me.
do the thing.
Tag me in the comment on your actual post, and I will come and like it. How about that?
Yes, please. All right. I hope this inspires somebody. If you like it, share it with somebody. Give the algorithm some love, and would love, love, love to hear how you're stepping into cringe, because it's an access point. It's magic.
Ciao. That was it for this episode of Good Thinking. Don't forget to tune in next week.
If you found this valuable, subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app.
And don't forget to read on Substack for even more insights.
And if you really liked it, drop us a heart. We'd love to hear from you.
Ciao. Until next time.